Nigeria lawmakers in the lower chamber of the House of Representatives have approved the proclamation and declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, along with the 6-month suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, Mrs. Ngozi Odu, and all elected members of the Assembly, as announced by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Tuesday night. Major newspapers and television media in Nigeria who have correspondents at the National Assembly, the West Africa Legislative Complex, reported that the seal of approval for the President's proclamation came via voice vote during plenary on Thursday. The Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, who presided over the plenary, called on members to make their contribution during the consideration of the general principles of the President's report. The new lawmaker and deputy spokesman of the House, Philip Agbese, recommended the setting up of a national mediation committee to broker peace between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the Rivers State House of Assembly, which the House approved the prayer. The minority whip of the House recommended that the 6-month suspension on the Rivers governor and the state legislature should not be cast in stone. If peace is reached between the two parties, the emergency rule should be lifted before 6 months, he said, a prayer the House also granted. The Speaker had earlier read a letter from the President notifying the House of the declaration of a state of emergency in the state. Before the letter was read, the House dissolved into an executive session which lasted for about 10 minutes. An attempt by the Abia lawmaker, Obi Agwancha, to stop the debate on the general principles of the letter, citing Section 305, 6b, of the Constitution, which requires that the House must have 2/3 of its members in plenary, was overruled by the Speaker. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, confirmed that 240 lawmakers attended the session, satisfying the quorum requirements. The motion for approval was observed to be strongly supported by Honorable Odinaka Miriam Onuoha, who represents Ikigwe North Federal Constituency of Imo State. Onuoha also not argued for a reduction in the 6-month suspension period imposed on Governor Siminalayi Fubara and other affected officials. I rise to second this motion as moved by my brother that this House do support the proclamation in view that it should be reduced shorter than the 6 months period, when the two parties come to the table. Whether it is tomorrow or earlier than that, I so second the motion, she stated during the session, reported as monitored by Sahara reporters via NAS TV. We had reported that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu aide, Nyesom Wike, who is the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, and the immediate past Governor of Rivers State, that is widely believed to be the apparent root cause of the political crisis in the state, who shortly after the swearing-in of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, Wike helped to the seat of power, was accused by the sitting governor, Siminalayi Fubara, of trying to use the State House of Assembly to frustrate and impeach him from office, simply because he, Fubara, refused to accept certain terms and conditions they both had in private, which, till now, both refused to tell the public the apparent personal political misunderstandings that made the governor, Fubara, to resort to self-defense by thus applying some measures within his powers as the governor to frustrate and stop his impeachment from the probably instigated Rivers State House of Assembly lawmakers, whose majority of them, up to 27 members, are seemingly loyal to the FCT minister, who, Wike, a few days ago, was the person that announced through the media to the general public that if an Ijaw son, Siminalayi Fubara, is impeached, nothing would happen, a statement he made, suggesting he may have conspired with the lawmakers to impeach the governor, because by his statements during the press conference, he was probably already doing damage control even when the House of Assembly has not served the governor an impeachment notice, but, in the face of the foregoing facts, the Nigeria Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, at a press briefing a few hours ago at the State House in Abuja, exonerated the FCT minister and said categorically that the FCT minister has no hand in the political crisis that has engulfed the oil-rich Rivers State, leading to militants bombing crude oil pipelines to destroy Nigeria's economy, probably as a way of protesting against the federal government's seemingly one-sided style of handling misunderstandings in the state. We had reported that two female lawmakers, Marie Ebekake, PDP, Bayelsa State and Blessing Amadi, PDP, Rivers State on Wednesday engaged in a heated argument almost leading to a fight at the National Assembly ahead of the plenary session scheduled by the National Assembly leadership to discuss, approve or reject the proclamation of state of emergency declared on Tuesday night by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu over the apparent personal political crisis between the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara, and Tinubu's aide, Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister and the immediate past governor of the South state. We had reported that the former vice president of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, and former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, both of whom were co-contestants as presidential candidates in the last presidential election in Nigeria, have reacted to the state of emergency and suspension of elected government in Rivers State by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with Atiku accusing and describing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a vested partisan actor in the political turmoil engulfing Rivers State. We had reported that the Nigeria president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in a nationwide broadcast on Tuesday evening, for the first time more than a decade in the history of the West Africa country, declared a state of emergency in Rivers State and suspended for initial 6 months the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, and his deputy, Mrs. Ngozi Odu, all elected members of the State House of Assembly, and appointed retired Vice Admiral Ibok Itibas as administrator to work with the existing laws of Rivers State with the members of the state judiciary following the apparent personal political crisis between the Rivers State governor, Siminalayi Fubara, and his former boss and the immediate past governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, who is currently the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, that was seen a few days ago in a viral video apparently making careless statements as a government official, statements capable of instigating a particular ethnic group against the government, wherein the FCT minister has said thus, that Ijaw people, a minority group in the South, and if their son, Fubara, is impeached, nothing would happen. After the statements, Wike refused to apologize to the Ijaw people despite public outcry and condemnations. Days after, as confirmed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, some militants started destroying crude oil pipelines in Rivers State as media reports trends and indicated that pro-Wike lawmakers may have concluded plans to impeach Governor Siminalayi Fubara.
Any more contributions?
We know the circumstances.
Any more contributions? So we put the question. Are we ready for the question? Are we ready? Those in support of this request of Mr. President as amended should say aye. Aye. Those in support of this request from Mr. President as amended should say aye. Those against should say nay. There is it. Thank you very much. Clerk.
To work together with all other stakeholders to ensure.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.